Our story begins with a man whose name doesn't matter. He was just another ghost in the machine, adrift in a sea of monotony and failure. He'd given up on dreams. He was content to simply exist. And that's when it happened. In the darkest corner of his life, a blinding light appeared. His late father's legacy, a small, seemingly worthless plot of land in the countryside, a place everyone had written off as a patch of weeds. But fate, that mischievous little psychopath, had other plans. This forgotten patch of dirt became the epicenter of a new city development. And just like that, his bank account ballooned, a number so absurdly large it could erase his entire miserable past. Millions, billions. A fortune he'd only ever seen in movies and daydreams was now his. But he didn't feel relief. He felt dread. This wasn't a blessing. It felt like a burden, a brutal psychological tax. Think about it. Psychologists have a name for this: sudden wealth syndrome. When your familiar broken self is suddenly exposed to a blinding light of success, the friction it creates is a kind of psychological horror all its own. He wasn't chasing money. All he wanted was a place of his own, a sanctuary, a quiet temple to his new life. But something inside him knew this wasn't going to be a peaceful transition. He was standing on the precipice of a great change, and the ground was starting to crumble beneath his feet. He moved into a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city while construction began. The place was a dump, damp windows, the smell of mold, a pervasive sense of decay. But it was temporary, or so he thought. The first night, a strange, muffled sobbing echoed from the room next door, followed by a violent struggle. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumbeat in the dark. The next morning, sirens. The news reported a tragic incident in the very room next to his. A chilling coincidence. He tried to brush it off, a bad omen burned away by good luck. He decided to find a new place. But fear, like a virus, spreads. He changed motels, but the shadow followed him. A new room, a new floor, and the exact same scenario. Another tragic end on the same floor. 2 deaths, 2 horrifying coincidences. His mind, the logic that had guided him his entire life, was unraveling. He started to believe the motel itself was cursed, that it was a silent predator stalking him. He was so terrified he ended up sleeping on the cold floor of his empty office. In that dark, vacant space, he finally surrendered to the abyss of sleep, and his subconscious took over. He found himself in a dream, in a room bathed in light. A beautiful woman stood there alone, waiting. She reached out her hand, and he took it, and they danced. And in that moment, a shocking fragment of memory surfaced. He'd met her before, when he was a car salesman. She was a mudang, a shaman. Think of them as spiritual guides who commune with gods and spirits, giving prophecies and conducting rituals. His mind, desperately trying to make sense of the chaos, was bringing back a forgotten connection. He couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a coincidence at all. A hidden force was guiding him. Possessed by this newfound certainty, he sought out the mudang. She didn't greet him. She simply closed her eyes and spoke. When your life changes, a bad omen will always follow, and there will be 2 near-death experiences. Her voice was calm, but the calm was a chilling blade that plunged deep into his heart. 2 unexplainable, gruesome events had just happened to him. This wasn't just a prophecy, it felt like a premonition of a greater disaster. He was now just waiting for the inevitable, and then the first trial came. Not with a monster, but with a ghost from his past. An old childhood friend showed up at his new house. There was no joy in his friend's face, only a hollow exhaustion. His eyes were erratic, and he trembled as he asked for 10 million won for a business venture. The man, filled with pity, was about to agree. But then he saw his friend's hand. It was shaking violently, and in his eyes, there was something beyond desperation, something cold, like the blade of a knife. He saw the raw, terrifying abyss of human despair. He knew this wasn't a simple request for help. "What happened to you?" he asked. "Tell me the truth." And that's when his friend broke. He sobbed uncontrollably, a torrent of betrayal, guilt, and bitter regret. From under his coat, he pulled out a tarnished knife and confessed a shocking truth. "I was offered a fortune to kill you by your own sister. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." His story was a grim tapestry of debt, desperation, and a monstrous bargain. His sister, consumed by greed over the inheritance, had offered to pay off his friend's debts in exchange for his brother's life. The human psyche, caught between the insatiable lure of money and the last vestiges of a moral conscience, had finally fractured. The man was horrified, but a part of him felt a strange sense of clarity, remembering the Mudang's prophecy. He had survived the first trial, but the deepest horror often comes in the most familiar disguise. On a quiet, snowy winter night, when the world was hushed under a white blanket, an uninvited guest arrived at his new home. The house stood stark against the dark blue sky, its silhouette barely visible in the faint moonlight. A few newly planted saplings were still just bare sticks, the landscape swallowed by the snow. The visitor was the village headman. He entered, shaking the snow from his coat, and they sat by the warm fireplace, sharing drinks and stories. It was a scene of perfect tranquility. The crackle of burning wood filled the air, the smell of fresh paint and new lumber was comforting, and the clinking of glasses was a soothing lullaby. But beneath this peaceful facade, a chilling crack began to form. He suddenly realized something was terribly wrong. He had never met this man before. He had never been introduced to the headman, yet he was sitting there, talking to him as if he had known him his entire life. And then, his eyes drifted to the front door. There were no footprints in the pristine snow leading up to the house. None at all. A bolt of ice-cold dread shot through his body. His heart froze, and the familiar warmth of the room became a hollow illusion. He knew, with a certainty that defied all logic, that the man was not human. It was a primal, terrifying awakening. He remembered the Mudang's final cryptic advice: "When the second trial comes, pretend to be asleep and pray all night." This was it, the only way to survive. Paralyzed by fear, he crawled into bed. He lay there like a corpse, holding his breath, listening to the pounding of his own heart, a sound louder than any scream. The being in the guise of the headman lingered. It taunted him with a playful, childish voice. "Are you asleep? Wake up. I'm here. Why are you sleeping?" The voice was a razor blade scraping against his brain. He couldn't move, his muscles rigid with terror. He felt a cold touch on his blanket, a hand that was not a hand. He kept his eyes squeezed shut, praying silently, "I am not here. I do not exist." This wasn't a simple scare. This was a psychological battle on the border of life and death, of being and non-being. One twitch, one breath, one moment of doubt could cost him everything. He was completely helpless. His only weapon was to make himself disappear. His consciousness began to fade, and time lost all meaning. When the first light of dawn broke, the presence was gone. He gasped, his body shaking, and he knew. He had survived the second trial. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. The man, following the Mudang's advice, went through his father's records and found the proof he needed. His sister was the true architect of his downfall. She had hired his friend to kill him, a truth confirmed by an email his friend had sent. The greed of his own flesh and blood proved to be a more terrifying monster than any phantom. The betrayal, the deep cut from his own family, was a wound that ran deeper than any supernatural horror. He cut off all ties with her, and the bizarre irony? His life thrived. His land was developed again, its value skyrocketing, and he became even wealthier. What does this story really tell us? Is it just about money and fear? Number. It's a drama of human desire. The psychological chaos born from sudden success, the terror that grew from it. It wasn't an outside force. It came from within him, from the darkest corners of his own family. Maybe the thing we should truly fear isn't a ghost with no footprints, but the cold, calculating face of a person consumed by greed. So let me ask you, if sudden fortune came knocking on your door, would you see the shadows hiding behind the blessing? Would you have the courage to look into the eyes of those closest to you and see the chilling truth? Tonight, stop for a moment. Look in the mirror. What is the real face staring back at you? I'll be back to chase your shadows in the next story.